Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is ass. It is so ass. There, I said it. Hello and welcome back to Cinematic Trash. It is here, it is finally here, our first entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe's 5th phase. Our fingers were crossed that this movie would be great. We had a lot riding on this movie. The very first steps into, well, I guess phase 4 is already the first steps in the multiverse saga, but this is supposed to be it. We got Kang the Conqueror. We got stakes. Shit is hitting the fan right now. I just watched the movie yesterday, and these are my thoughts. These are unfiltered with spoilers. If you don't want to hear spoilers, then click to this timestamp in the video. Please and thank you. I guess I should talk about the first 2 Ant-Man movies. I liked the first Ant-Man, and that's it. Ant-Man was a fine movie. It was funny, it was family friendly, it was what I wanted from an Ant-Man movie. Although Yellow Jacket, Corey Stoll as Yellow Jacket, he was kind of a lame villain, but you know, it's Ant-Man, you know what I mean? Ant-Man and the Wasp, the second Ant-Man movie. Parts of it were okay, I liked parts of it, but let's be honest, none of us saw that movie simply because we liked Ant-Man 1. We all saw it because we wanted to see what happened after Avengers Infinity War, and the whole movie was kind of pointless, except for the ending. So there's that. And speaking of pointless, here we've come to Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. There's a lot of things, actually. I wish I took notes while I was in the screening of the movie. There are a lot of things that I wanted to mention. Like I'm seeing what's happening in front of me on screen, and I'm like, I need to mention that in the review. And there's a lot that happened, so I don't know if I remembered everything, but this is basically what I got here. Is there anything that I like about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania? Yeah, of course. And it's the same thing that everybody likes. It's really the only good thing that came out of this movie. And that's Jonathan fucking Majors as Kang the Conqueror. Jonathan Majors, he is an excellent, excellent actor. And this movie shows it. Kang the Conqueror, I'm excited to see more of him. He's a scary villain. He's like, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know much about Kang the Conqueror to begin with. As a concept of a man who can be anywhere, anytime, and can do pretty much anything is pretty scary. And you thought Thanos was scary, but Kang the Conqueror is like Thanos, but everywhere and everything all at once. You know what I mean? But yeah, Kang the Conqueror, he is really cool. Even still, this movie is just so problematic. That's the best way I can... If I were to describe Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania in one word, it would be, it is very, very problematic. And that's a generous way of putting it. So for one thing, Kang the Conqueror, he's a great villain. So far, it seems he's a great villain. We've only seen 2 iterations of him at the end of season 1 of Loki and in this movie. And well, at the end we see like even more versions of Kang. This movie shows us what Kang is capable of, but I feel like they kind of missed the mark just a little bit. But I'll get to that in a few minutes. Anything else that I did like about the movie? Paul Rudd and Michelle Pfeiffer are both wonderful actors, and they do as good a job as they can do with the script that they got. As far as the set design goes and the art direction, the Marvel movies have done a pretty good job keeping up, making every movie have a nice set design and a good art direction. So I guess I can't fault them at that. It looks pretty much it's pretty much what I've come to expect. It's very good. It's certainly better than anything I can do in terms of designing a world. But I will also talk more about that in a few minutes. Now we get to the bad stuff, and obviously the bad stuff overwhelms the good stuff in this movie. Yeah, like I said, Jonathan Majors is a great actor. Paul Rudd and Michelle Pfeiffer are great actors, but I feel like there are times in the movie where the acting just seems fake. You know what I mean? Like at the beginning of the movie, there's a brief interaction between like Michael Douglas, Scott Lang, and his daughter Cassie at the dinner table, and I'm pretty sure I'm blaming it on the script because I feel like the script did not get it, you know, sitting at a table as a family sort of thing. Like there are times when the discussion that they were having as a family seemed real, but there are times when it seemed really fake. Hearing me mention this now, if you haven't seen the movie yet and you're going to see it later, you'll know what I'm talking about. It seemed very manufactured, you know what I mean? Like a commercial, like a Super Bowl ad, you know what I mean? Jeff Loveness, he's a good screenwriter for maybe television. Like, he's good for Rick and Morty, you know what I mean? I don't know if the Rick and Morty approach to the Marvel Cinematic Universe really works that well, because if this is a sample of what's to come out of Jeff Loveness in the MCU, it's doomed, is all I gotta say. It is very doomed. Speaking of actors and actresses, Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp, as Hope Van Dyne, she is severely underutilized in this movie. She's been put on the back burner, and she wasn't really in any of the not that in the marketing that much. It's titled Ant-Man and the Wasp. I don't know. I guess Janet Van Dyne is the Wasp as well, I guess. I don't even know how that whole dynamic works at this point. You know what I mean? It's like Kang says, they all kind of blend together at a certain point. If you understand that reference, let me know in the comments. But yeah, Evangeline Lilly, she's severely underutilized. She becomes more prominent in the second half of the movie. Not even the second half, the the third act of the movie. She finally has something to do. Yeah, so in terms of the story, I'm having trouble trying to figure out what Janet Van Dyne's motivation was. But I feel like she went about it in the completely wrong way. Kang the Conqueror is such a scary dude, and if the things she saw were so horrible, and she knew she left him down in the quantum realm, but she left him down there alive, wouldn't she she's brought back to Earth, the real world, or her natural world, reunites with Hank Pym and her daughter, gets to know Scott, gets to know about Scott's story as an Avenger. I'd imagine someone as smart as Janet Van Dyne would probably say something about Kang, right? So that maybe enough super people would be prepared for something like that. And I feel like she would have talked to, especially Hank, Michael Douglas, she especially would have talked to him about it. I'd imagine if he knew about that, then maybe he would have had the conscience to maybe not let Cassie send a signal to the quantum realm and build a machine that's capable of doing so. You know what I mean? It's probably the writing. Again, it's probably the writing. If Janet Van Dyne wasn't written the way she was in the movie, then of course there would be no movie. So, there's that. If I were in her shoes, I wouldn't do something so stupid, so moronic. You know what I mean? You're telling me, you have loads and loads of comics about Kang the Conqueror. You're telling me there was no other way to introduce Kang the Conqueror. And Kang the Conqueror himself has, a pretty good introduction, but it's by proxy through Janet Van Dyne, and just the way they approached it just seemed very strange. It seemed like Janet Van Dyne's character, her motivation seemed very unclear to me. Speaking of characters, Louise, he's not in the movie at all. In fact, that's a favorite character. I think that's a lot of people's favorite characters in the first two Ant-Man movies. Those two movies are more comedy oriented anyway, but Louise would have been a good comic relief character, other than another comic relief character we got, which I'll talk about later on. But yeah, notable absence, Louise, and really the rest of Scott Lang's gang. You know what I mean? Scott Lang's friends had played, a significant part in saving the day. You know what I mean? They were still there to help. They were still there to make something happen. You know what I mean? And in this movie, Louis is gone. He's not even mentioned. Not even they couldn't even put him in the opening montage. In the movie opens and ends in a similar kind of romantic comedy kind of montage. In fact, the opening and the ending are another thing that bothered me, because they both feel like advertisements. The whole movie feels like one big long commercial, actually, but Scott Lang is narrating, and he's narrating to the audience, right? Because it's through a book. At the beginning of the movie, it makes sense because he's narrating through his book that he wrote based on his endeavors and the Avengers stuff. But at the end of the movie, that's not part of the book. It's just still him narrating and him thinking and him going like insane. The FBI agent, the Randall Parks character, the FBI agent, he's in it. Has no dialogue though, so there's that. There's something that I noticed about this movie, and I feel like it could be because it's a Disney thing. Disney owns Star Wars, right? Now hear me out on this. Disney owns Star Wars. Disney owns both the MCU and Star Wars, and I feel like Disney had like a whole art department worth of Star Wars like character and creature designs and set designs, and they were just like, we didn't use these for any of our canceled Star Wars media. Here, use them for the Ant-Man movie. We'll cut some corners. We'll save some money that way. There are a lot of Star Wars comparisons. Everyone was saying, you know, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is the MCU Star Wars. And they are not joking. They are not lying. In fact, it is verbatim, like a carbon copy of Star Wars at times. Certain characters look literally like Star Wars characters, and Star Wars scenes, and Star Wars gadgets. The hover vehicles, like they look exactly like Star Wars hover vehicles, and they operate exactly like them. You got this scene in later in the second act. You know, Janet Van Dyne, Hank, and Hope are all in like a bar, like a canteen, you know what I mean? And it's like, and they meet like all these alien creatures, and it's like, yeah, it's just like the cantina scene in New Hope. It's the exact same thing. Speaking of like weird like creature designs, there's a broccoli monster, by the way. Just throwing that out there. There's a broccoli monster. MODOK. Okay, MODOK. So there's a lot about MODOK. I don't know shit about MODOK, about him in the comics. I don't know. A lot of people seem to like him as a comic book character, but even I knew, as someone who knows nothing about MODOK, I know damn well that he did not translate very well in this movie. And part of it is because they wanted to bring back Corey Stoll, who's a great actor, by the way, but he was so lame as Darren Cross in the first Ant-Man movie. There was no reason to bring him back. MODOK could have been a totally different person created for this movie. Darren Cross was not really set up to be MODOK in any way. He kind of like accidentally himself into being MODOK, I guess. And not even by accident, like he was banished to like the quantum realm, and like they just turned him into MODOK for like no reason. Like he should have been dead. He should have been dead. MODOK should have been someone else. MODOK, I hate to say this, but MODOK should have been like all CG. Because MODOK has a big head and like a human body, right? So how do you make that into live action? So like here's a picture of MODOK like in the comics. How the fuck do you make this live action? You can't, unless you make him an entirely CGI character, or you need like a really like creative like practical effects department, and which of course the MCU refuses to create one, right? So here we have MODOK, and he's the most stupid fucking goofy looking character design that I've ever seen in the MCU, like in the entirety of the MCU. Like you have characters in the Guardians movies and in this movie even that are meant to look goofy. They're designed to look goofy on purpose. And then MODOK is supposed to be like this beloved character from the comics, and he looks goofy, and I can't in good conscience believe it was on purpose. I think it was just like a fuck up, one big fuck up. They've like stretched his face, Corey Stoll's face. It's like a bad Photoshop job. In fact, he doesn't even look like Corey Stoll anymore. I'm watching in the theater, and I'm thinking, gosh, you know, MODOK looks like David Spade. Like, does anyone remember David Spade? So yeah, MODOK looks like David Spade, and if they had casted David Spade in the role of MODOK, I guarantee there would have been no difference at all. Oh yeah, we see MODOK's ass. I guess the MCU likes showing ass now. We saw Hulk's ass in Thor Ragnarok. Now we see MODOK's ass. It's funny because his ass looked like the Minions. Hold on. If you Google the word Minions, you don't even have to write Despicable Me or anything. If you write the word Minions, the second picture that comes up on Google is a bunch of like Minions showing you their bare ass. And MODOK, when we see MODOK's ass, and it looks exactly like that. There's an animation department devoted to designing that ass, by the way, and they were underpaid. Gosh, I can only imagine working for Marvel. I couldn't do it. Speaking of a bad CGI job, the CGI in general looks pretty crap. I expected more from a multi-million-dollar movie, especially one that's in like, you know, $100 million, $200 million range. You know, I'm sitting through the credits waiting for the post-credit scene, and it's just a wall of VFX artists. You got like 12 fucking, like 15 different companies and like 1,000 like VFX artists each. There's so many VFX artists working on one movie to make it all happen. And like they're all underpaid as fuck. They're all like struggling here. And it shows. They have like a huge workload and like the worst deadlines ever. And Kevin Feige was like, oh, you know, we're gonna like, you know, stretch things out a bit, you know, so we can focus more on the quality and instead of the quantity, which is a great business move, by the way. Kudos for that. But like, when does that start is what I want to know. Because Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania definitely looks like it's been finished before that new policy started. And you know, they're already talking about like a fourth Ant-Man movie. Oh, and speaking of other characters, we got Bill Murray. I like him as an actor, but there was no way he agreed to be in this movie. Maybe that's why the CG sucks in this movie, because a lot of the budget just went to paying Bill Murray to convince him to be in the movie. I'm joking, of course, but it seems that way. Bill Murray was in the movie for less than like 5 minutes, and he was totally pointless. Like really, he dies so quick, and he really accomplishes nothing. Okay, he alerted Kang that Janet Van Dyne had returned to the quantum realm, and Kang had been looking for Janet. And Janet, you know, goes to Bill Murray, asks him for help out of the quantum realm, and instead he gives her up to Kang, or tries to, but he fails miserably. He gets killed very quickly, and so do his goons, and they steal his ship. Kang, of course, you know, captures Janet Van Dyne anyway. Bill Murray did nothing except just tell him that she was there. So yeah, Bill Murray is in it for less than 5 minutes. Also, he has no dick in the movie.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
What else? Okay, yeah, back to Kang the Conqueror. I'm not entirely sure what the plan with Kang is, because there's so many different Kangs to keep track of now. You got Rama Tut. You got a lot of different Kangs, especially at the end of the movie. This Kang that we see in this movie was banished to the quantum realm. Then he was banished again into an even smaller version of the quantum realm, where, like, how does that even work? Scientifically speaking, I think that's just bullshit. Or whatever, it's a movie. But like, all the other Kangs like talk about this particular Kang like he's an issue. Is that particular Kang the Kang that is going to be present in all the movies? He gets his ass kicked. I'm sorry, spoilers. I know I said spoilers already, but spoilers. Kang gets his ass kicked. Like, don't get me wrong, he kicks Ant-Man's ass, and Ant-Man almost dies. In fact, I think Ant-Man should have died, because it would have given the movie, like, the stakes and the emotional gut punch that the movie desperately needed. And it would have probably gotten us even more excited for the next movies, because, wow, what an ending. You know what I mean? And, you know, yeah, Ant-Man almost dies, so, like, Hope has to help him, but still, two Ant-Men and the Wasp alone kicked Kang's ass and won. And yeah, you know, Kang will always be back. There's multiple Kangs, of course he'll be back. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I just don't understand Kang yet, and what Kang can mean. And, you know, of course, I didn't read all the comics, so I'm just not well versed in this Kang the Conqueror stuff. Kang is such a cool character concept, but I feel like they just haven't quite written him out like properly. We still don't know why Kang wants to do what he does. At least with Thanos, Thanos had a clear goal, a clear ambition, and he had a clear reasoning. Whether the reasoning was sound reasoning or not, it was still his reasoning, and it still made sense to a certain degree. Kang makes no sense. He's called Kang the Conqueror because he likes conquering things, and there's really no, like, nuance. That's it. There's no nuance. There's no complexity. It's just, I'm big and I'm bad, and I'm strong. And I don't know, maybe in a future movie we'll see like we'll get more of an explanation. But right now, Kang is such a cool character. I want to see more of him. Avengers Kang Dynasty comes out in 2 years, and so far Kang has gotten his ass kicked by Ant-Man and the Wasp. Okay, I imagine when Kang Dynasty comes around and they bring everybody back, and then in Secret Wars they have even more people from even more universes and multiverses and whatever the fuck. What's Kang gonna do? Okay, there'll be more Kangs, right? Who is the main Kang? Like, who's the boss? Like, how are we supposed to stay invested in Kang the Conqueror if there's no consistent Kang, like one constant Kang character to be worried about? So yeah, Kang the Conqueror was defeated, I think, a little too easily. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. It's okay. The first 10 or 15 minutes of Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania reminded me of why I liked the first Ant-Man movie. And then, you know, the plot kicks into high gear, and the second act is kind of boring. We're exploring this new world, but we're not really exploring it that intuitively. The movie looks like the world in general, it looks cool and all, but like it looks very derivative of like other things we've seen. Guardians of the Galaxy being one of them. Disney's recent movie, like Strange World, looks pretty much like that. Quantumania is like, it's just a movie that just reminds you why you like other movies. That's essentially what this is. It reminds you why you like Star Wars so much. For an Ant-Man movie, the ants have really nothing to do with the movie until the very end of the movie. The ants are noticeably absent in the movie up until, you know, the final fight scene. If the writers thought about every little detail, there would be no movie. I have to remind myself that there would be no movie if it was written competent. If the characters were competent. If the characters were competent, there would be no movie. I have to keep that in mind. Other than that, though, it is fun to watch. I did enjoy myself watching it. I don't see myself watching it again for another few years. So, my final thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. I am disappointed. Yeah, I'm disappointed. It sucks. There are scenes that I enjoy. I enjoy Kang the Conqueror. I don't see myself seeing this again anytime soon. In the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty lame entry. It's essentially one big trailer. It's just one big 2-hour-long trailer that's advertising Loki Season 2 and Kang Dynasty. That's all it is. It's just one big advertisement. I've seen better out of the MCU. I've seen way, way better out of the MCU. And this being the first entry in Phase 5, 5 phases. We are 5 phases in. And this is what we've come to. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Anyway, my channel is called Cinematic Trash, after all, and I deem Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania as certified cinematic trash. Anyways, as always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch my video. Go check out Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania for yourself. See if you like it. Let me know in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Am I an asshole? Let me know. As always, until next time, take care now.